Hello, in this video, the active learning strategy versus constructivisms. I would like to emphasize on what are the differences between this active learning and traditional lecture methods. We have also seen in the previous video that the active learning strategies and constructivisms briefly. So here in this video probably we are going to look at greater details of what is active learning. Alright, now we'll have to look at what is in definitions of active learning and constructivist theory. So when we define the constructivisms according to the Badders, Arrighi and Jones 2002, constructivisms can be defined as the idea that development of understanding requires the learner to actively engage in meaning making. So here students, anything they try to learn, they need to visualize, they need to think up and then try to correlate and put into their own perceptions, in their own thinking. So such kind of, and then they have to make their own meaning. Otherwise it would be difficult for them to make out what they have learned. So that is what constructivism means, where students need to actively engage themselves to make a meaning out of what they have learned. Similarly, the active learning instructional strategy includes the wide range of activity that shares a common element of involvement in doing things and thinking about the things they are doing. So it's not that simply they do for the sake of doing, but they need to also think about what they are doing it and then why are they doing it. So now if you look at these two instructional strategies or the approaches of teaching, in both the case we see engagement of the students and also see that they have to become more reflective of what they have learned. So now what are the active learning strategies? Active learning strategies, we have seen few examples of active learning strategies even in the previous slides. So what is active learning strategy? The active learning strategies can create and use engage students in critical thinking or thinking creatively, thinking critically or thinking creatively. So this is the way of engaging students in their learning. Our strategy should be such that it should create and use to engage students in their thinking critically or creatively, and also should provide an opportunity to speak with the partners in a small group and with the entire class. The active learning strategy also encourages the students to express ideas through writing. So there should be some components of writing, and there should be also the component where they try to express their attitudes. We are able to judge their attitudes. So places where there should be also place where they can express their values, and then we should be able to make out their attitudes. It should also give, active learning strategy also gives a wide range of opportunities to give and receive feedbacks. And the final one is students always reflect upon their own learning. So reflections is one of the main components in the active learning strategy. So these are some of the features of the active learning strategies. Every active learning strategy must allow the students to think critically or creatively, must allow the student to speak with the partners in the small groups and to the entire groups, must have an opportunity to express their idea through writings, explore their personal attitudes and values. There should be some people who challenges their values, and they should be able to accept or even even if they argue, there should be certain point, certain places where they can talk to. So they learned that in such active learning strategy, there should be a place for them to give and receive feedback, and they must practice through their own reflections. The active learning can happen in any places. It can be within the classroom or outside the classroom. It can also happen working either as an individuals or in a group. It can be either with or without a technology. So here, active learning can be even by using certain ICT tools in your classroom teaching can also enhance the active learning instructional strategy. So teachers must think about, should I use the technology or should I use some kind of an activity, non-ICT activities. So think about non-ICT and ICT based active learning strategy. Active learning promotes deep learning. This is very important. When the instructor employs an active learning strategy, he or she will be one, spend greater proportion of time helping students in their understanding and skills. Promoting a deep learning and lesser proportions of transmitting information. So here in such kind of active learning, teachers engage more on promoting deeper learning than a surface learning. In addition, instructor will also provide an opportunity for the students to apply and demonstrate what they are learning to, and to receive immediate feedback from the peer or instructor. So these are the two things that happens simultaneously. Whatever they have learned, they will be able to apply. So always think about how can they be able to transfer the informations. And there is also there is a lot of opportunity for the teachers to provide feedback. Even the students, a peer can also provide feedback. Therefore, the active learning is very important. Now, when we say that, we have often seen there are two types of lecture: a traditional lecture and an active learning lecture. So traditional lecture, instructor talks, student listens with minimum interruptions. The instructor, in case of interactive, instructor talks with a periodic pause for the structures activities. So there is an activities, although this is a lecture, but it's an interactive lecture because in between the lecture there are activities, planned activities. Students concentrate, concentration can be observed dropping after 15 minutes. Students concentrations begins to when a short structured class activities is assigned. Instructor questions largely rhetorical. Questions are largely rhetorical. Student response to the instructor questions are commonly made by student raising their hands. So whereas instructors questions require response, students response to the instructor's questions are commonly made by using clickers, or if these are the some of the, they have used a technology, what you call ICT based activities. Student to student talk is discouraged here because normally teachers want a pin drop silence. Here student to student talks are encouraged. Student listens and take a note independently. Students often work with the partners or in groups. Students' comprehensions during the lectures is not monitored explicitly. Students' comprehension during the lecture is monitored. Opportunities to correct the misunderstanding are not provided routinely during the lecture. So in case of interactive lecture, opportunity to correct the misunderstanding are periodically provided within the lecture. Students under the traditional lecture, student absenteeism often is quite high. High rate of attendance are often reported in case of active lecture. So these are the two different types of ways of teaching: interactive lectures and the active learning. Almost they are similar, whereas we have seen very often that even in the schools or in the universities, at the colleges, that the teachers often given lectures, continuous lectures, and students are just a passive listener. So therefore, we need to actually move to, even if we do a lecture, then we need to go to active lecture or the active teaching learning strategy. All right, just to recall what we have understood through this video: why do we emphasize the active learning strategy? What are active learning strategies? What are the differences between active and passive teaching learning strategies? Given active and traditional lecture methods. With this, I would like you to please read on to some of the active learning strategies and active learning strategy for biology. There are a lot of uh, articles available online, free articles. Please read on this and then build your knowledge about active learning. With this, I just like to say thank you.